Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things when it comes to making your home more enjoyable. And let's think of it. What's the point of a home if you don't enjoy it? If you want to make your home more enjoyable, no one can help you turn your living space into a game room or a media room or a home bar or a card room like Games and Things can. Visit them where Level Road meets Kingston Pike out in West Knoxville. Their showroom, I always tell you, this is a fun place. If you haven't been in there, go in. I guarantee you're going to tell me, this is a fun place. It's a cool place. It's like the world's nicest, coolest living room. Games and Things. You can also find them at ourgameroom.com. And coming up soon, they got a big anniversary sale we're going to tell you about. So Games and Things. Get out there this week and see them. All right, I want to talk about the coaching staff here. When Tennessee fired Jeremy Pruitt back in January, I put a big thing on our YP board over there. The things that I think Tennessee should do in this search, who should they be looking at? And number one, I think it was number one, is one of the big things on the list, was simply finding a guy who was an X's and O's guy, who could scheme up what you have without being another one of these guys that, well, if we get 5 good recruiting classes in here, I'll be able to compete with Alabama. I wanted X's and O's over Jimmy's and Joe's. You were talking about national championships, you're probably going to need both, or at least the Jimmy's and Joe's. But right now you're seeing, I believe, the benefits of hiring an X's and O's guy, because you look at where Tennessee and Alabama were last night. Let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to insult anybody at Tennessee, so don't get mad, but if the NFL had a draft of just Alabama and Tennessee players this spring, how many picks do you go through before you hear a Tennessee name called? You might have 10 Bama guys picked before you even get to a Tennessee guy. That is
or you may only have one Tennessee guy to the top 10
the
whole time.
Yeah. So that is the talent difference you're talking about. And yet, until you got gassed in the fourth quarter, you had them right there in a shootout with you.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's going to turn out. Coaches have good years and bad years. This doesn't mean they're always going to be good. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt had one good year. So we don't know what this means for the time being. We can only judge what we've seen so far. But what I've seen so far, I am thoroughly impressed with this staff, and I think there's plenty of reason to look at this and say, if everybody just gets off this guy's back, give him some time, I think he can get you back to where you want to be. Am I alone on that island? Am I too much in love with this coaching staff from what I've seen? In love's a strong word, but we'll go there. Make it a point. 8 games in, am I too far on the cheerleader camp?
No, and I love this coaching staff. To me, and we were talking about this the other day, but the only thing to me about this coaching staff that is yet to be proven as to whether they can get to the next level is recruiting. I think they can take a lot of 3-star offensive players and do okay. They have got to get really good defensive players. They got to get 4 and 5 stars. They got to get the Will Overstreet and the Marlon Wallace. If they can do that, then this staff can get Tennessee back where it wants to go. Offensively, I think they'll be fine. Heck, with what they've got, they were ranked number 2 in the SEC in scoring going into that game against Alabama. So I like a lot of what I've seen out of this staff.
Gentlemen?
I have to agree. And you just think about it from last year to this year, and you look at basically a lot of the same defense and what it was last year, and it really wasn't competitive, and now it's competing. You just look at where you're not seeing guys in a backfield still talking to each other about what the play is, and the ball's being snapped, and you got guys all out of place, and they leaving wide receivers open that they don't show up on the TV screen. So, I mean, to me, it just shows you what they've been able to do in a very short time, take talent, get it to where it needs to be, and get it to an understanding of what they're trying to do, which is, it's great, you know, because you don't have to be necessarily the smartest guy out there. They've put you in the place, and they've given you the idea, and those guys are running with it.
I beat him up for 3 years over this because it ticked me off when he said it. The first Tennessee-Alabama game at halftime, Alabama's whipping them. And Jeremy Pruitt at halftime says, well, we'll just get 25 new guys. I got to recruit new guys out here. And I thought, how about you coach up the guys you have?
Exactly.
You're the one making millions. How about you coach them up? And I'm seeing that with this bunch. Marlon.
I'll tell you a critical part of the game when I was watching it that stood out to me was when they pulled Saban aside going into the half. And Saban, it looked like he'd been ballroom dancing her all over his head the whole deal. And then he said to the reporter, they've got a really good offense that can score on you. So we've got to make sure we make our adjustments and correct what we need to correct. It's been a long time since Saban had to say something like that about a Tennessee coach, a Tennessee offense, a Tennessee team. And so for me, that was important, just kind of watching those mannerisms and able to see him and see how stressed he was on the sideline. That means we're doing something right. This coaching staff is taking advantage of X's and O's and how to beat people.
I had somebody being critical of the coaching staff last night saying, well, all Alabama's defense is doing is making mistakes. That's because Josh Heupel's offense is built with that tempo too. Hopefully you will make mistakes, and we're going to be good enough to take advantage of it. I think Tennessee's offense has been good enough to take advantage of a lot of those mistakes. I'm really, really, really impressed by this coaching staff. I mean, I thought that they wouldn't even get to 6-6 this year. I think they're going to do that. But the way they've played in the big games against the better teams, when I think – and I said it earlier, I'll say it again, you've got one arm tied behind your back when it comes to depth and in some cases when it comes to talent. So to be able to do what they've done and play with top-ranked teams, and you got 2 more coming, so let's see. Yeah. I think it's been impressive.
Kudos to the players, too. It's not, I mean, the coaches have to do their job, but, you know, this team, you could call them the leftovers because, fair or not, the look of it was all the really good guys transferred somewhere else to start.
Alabama's last touchdown last night, you're still playing hard down there to go on.
Yeah, your guys are playing hard. And I'll also say this back to the coaching staff. You've not had a clunker yet. The season's not over yet, but you've not, and I mean, you got Georgia to come, but you've not had a sucked from first quarter to fourth quarter game yet.
Correct.
And most teams do that. Most teams have one of those. You haven't had it yet. You also haven't been beaten by somebody that shouldn't have beaten you yet. Now, you haven't pulled an upset, although you were in the red zone against Ole Miss. You almost got the upset. But no one who, I mean, Pitt was a 50-50 game, and that they've only lost one game on the year. They're competing in the ACC now, so for the title. So I would give this team credit for no clunkers, coaching the guys up, not being upset by anybody. I'm impressed with the staff.
Did you see the first quarter stat on Alabama with Saban where Tennessee led 14-7? It's the first time since 2012 that a Saban-coached team is trailed by 7 or more in the first quarter. Look at Tennessee's first quarter numbers. Doesn't that tell you a little bit about coaching, about preparation, about scouting? Yeah. I think they've done a really good job.
Well,
Marlon, very quickly.
And very quickly, like, again, you saw blown coverages by Alabama's DBs. And these are top 5-star, 4-star guys that's waited their turn and know the system. These guys are blowing coverages. That's X's and O's. That's scheming your guys.
Yep. All right, very good. When we come back, we're going to do rapid fire. Hendon Hooker, Henry To'o, scrambling quarterbacks, booing injuries, and a little Jeremy Pruitt. All in the next segment. Come on back.